It's almost time. We got one more minute. I almost transitioned without studio mode. That could have been kind of bad. I don't know how bad 1 minute is. I'm sure some content creator out there put their video to go live at 8:59, right, instead of 9 or whatever. It's 8:59 for me. I made sure to put both time zones in my post. I'm pretty excited though. I think this is gonna be pretty good. I think the challenger decks have been a pretty big hit recently. So let's see. I know Dark Deku was pretty popular. He might not be super meta, but I know he was pretty popular. And he's got a lot of legs. He's got a lot of avenues to work with. Oh, it's 9 o'clock. Let's do it. All right, everybody. I got the chance to do the solo leveling challenger deck reveal, and I decided I'm going to do a little tier list of all the cards in it, just to give you something special, try to stand out from the pack. You know, everyone's uploading their reveal videos. I figured not only give you my thoughts, but maybe put them in a nice little organized, content-friendly tier list. But we've had the Sung Jin Woo E-Rank Hunter character card for a hot minute now. You guys should all know what he does, but we got a little peeky doodle at the foil variant here. We've got 6 hand size, 30 health, and you begin the game with the assassin skill tree. Then you have response tenacious. Remove 1 XP card from your hand or stage cost at the start of your end phase to level up. So this is pretty pretty hard to decipher on its face. So of course we're gonna need to know what the assassin skill tree does. So let's take a look at the assassin skill tree here. To be this direction. And we've got a foil option on the assassin skill tree as well, which is pretty cool because you'll start with this in play, right? So the assassin skill tree says your character can unlock these skills. After you level up, unlock the next skill down, beginning with critical attack. So we're basically going to be leveling. It looks like there's what, 6 levels, 6 different abilities to get. And it looks like you have to level up to get the first one. So after you level up, you unlock the next skill down. You begin with critical attack. So critical attack says enhance. This weapon attack gets +1 damage for each attack in your card pool. So already off the bat, Sung Jin Woo is basically telling us we're going to want to be a weapons deck, right? And weapons are how we fight in the show. So weapons are what we're going to focus on. And then murderous intent is our level 2. First enhance, once per turn, reduce this attack speed to 0. So that's very cool. That is a huge defensive ability. That is very, very powerful. It being a first enhance is pretty balanced, I would say. But at the same time, just being level 2, basically at the end of your second turn, you're going to get to have this ability, which is incredibly, incredibly strong. So very cool stuff already with just the early abilities, giving you sort of an offensive game plan, weapon attacks, getting bonuses as you get more into your card pool. So having a longer string is more beneficial. And then having a super powerful defensive ability, very similar in vein with the Azuku Midoriya on the move / Corks Unleashed deck. Very cool stuff. Then Quicksilver is our 3rd level. Once per turn, this attack gets +3 speed. Okay, so now we're getting a little dangerous, right? Now we're getting a good damage bonus and we're getting a really good speed bonus. Still primarily once per turn, though, which is very normal. It makes a lot of sense that when you've got access to this many abilities, you're probably not going to get to use them on every attack. That might be a little too much. But Quicksilver is probably where you start to feel really good as a character. It's where you start to feel really potent. But Dagger Throw, I think, is my favorite ability at level 4. So enhance once per turn, your weapon attack gains Echo. And I think the reason I love this so much is not only is Echo a keyword that I feel like should be utilized a bit more. They've had to play it really safe, and we're starting to see some nastier Echoes come out. Unfazed from the lower decks product was a really strong Echo, and now we're probably going to get to be able to make any single attack in this deck an echo attack. So very strong stuff. Once you get to that level 4, we're probably deep in the game. Having a momentum's not a big deal, and having all of your openers available to play twice is actually kind of insane. So I think level 4 is where it starts to get a little overwhelming. But level 5 is stealth. Once per turn, change the zone of this attack. So I thought that the flavor for this should have been a response. That was kind of my initial impression. Stealth, being able to do it like anywhere in the enhanced step, it feels like it should be like the very beginning of the combat. But at the same time, this is also a level 5 ability, so it's got to be really strong to make you really want to push to get this far down the skill tree. And I think they did an amazing job. So at this point, level 5, not only can you zero out the attack speed, but you can now perfect block it with any zone in your hand. You can now change it to whatever zone you need to, and we've seen how powerful vertical maneuvering equipment can be. So this has to be one of the better abilities, I think, that a character can have. Again, granted, it's super late game, but once you're this powerful, it's kind of insane. And I should talk really quick about the flavor on Dagger Throw. Dagger Throw is insanely cool flavor. You hit them with the weapon, right? And then as a secondary attack, throwing it is always one of my favorite things to see in, you know, anime or fantasy movies and stuff like that. And I always like little extra attack abilities in RPGs. If you guys have played D&D, you know, snap kick and things like that, like you get an extra unarmed attack that has sort of like nothing else to do with how your other attacks work. But so Dagger Throw, giving an attack like a secondary use because you're throwing the weapon that you attacked with, I think is a super cool flavor win. And then Ruler's Authority, so the capstone ability, the level 6, we finally get back to an ability that we can use on every attack, and it is absolutely a doozy. You get to enhance, add 1 XP card from your removed pile to your hand. So if you guys remember, with Sung Jin Woo, we have to be removing XP to get these level ups. It can't just be, you know, a willy-nilly choice. So this is obviously where everything comes together. By the time you get to level 6, you know, you've removed 1 XP card multiple times, I guess 6 times, right, to get to that stage in the game, and now you get to start adding them back. So all that planning you did, all the times that you said, okay, I don't need this card right now, but I might need it later, you now have your pick of the litter. So this is an amazing capstone ability. It's an amazing thing to have access to. It's a super late game ability, but sort of like the transforming conditions for the Titan Shifters, that was, I think, very much to be seen as like a way to time gate those abilities. And, you know, you'll see a lot of those characters just focus on having 2 good solid builds so that they can punch their way into their transform. And so this is an actual turn-based sort of gate. So if by the time you get to turn 6 and you've been able to, you know, go down a hand size, right? You have to remove the card, I guess, from your hand or stage, but removing a card from your stage is also, you know, a card you played earlier, right? So you're still losing card advantage overall by doing that. I think it's very fair to say, okay, well, I've been removing these cards and going down a hand size. Now I can get it all back. So very excited to see what the rest of this deck looks like. I did take a little bit of a peek so I could have a better understanding of the tier list we're going to do. So these are not first impressions, but I definitely not spent a whole lot of time with these cards. I wanted to give you guys sort of like the same oohs and ahs that I had seeing them. So it's all still very fresh in my mind, but we are just going to kind of go in order here through the folder. And the first up card that we have is Serpent Scramble. I should point out really quick, he does have all death and life. So we're back to 3 symbols for the character. And then the cards within the deck are going to have different tenacious or different attune symbols. Sorry. So we have all death and life to work with, and we have an all symbol foundation, Serpent Scramble, Breaker 1, and XP. So it's going to work for our character's ability, but it has no text while it's in the stage. So we just talked about how you can remove XP from your stage. This could be a very nice opportunity to build this card, commit it to pass checks, and then remove it later because it's not really going to help us now, right? So I think this is probably going to be an underrated card going forward. I think people are not going to be super enthusiastic about it, but if you're playing Sung Jin Woo, I think this actually gives you some really nice opportunities, right? It gives you options that you really wouldn't have with any other character. Also, pulling it back from remove from game later to have a high block with breaker. I don't know. It's definitely for this deck, right? Next up, we have Loot Box, another XP card, a 2/4, +3 low block, also the all symbol. You enhance flip, build the top card of your deck. At the end of this combat phase, add that card to your hand. This one's very cool. We've seen a couple cards now that will build the top card of your deck, and at the start of the end phase, you would remove them. And so this is at the end of the combat phase, you get to add it to your hand. So you get to commit it for cost, and then you get to get the card advantage back. So this one's really nice just because of that, you know, how we talked about Sung Jin Woo having to remove those cards from hand. This is definitely a much better way to compensate for it. So I think this one's very, very cool. I just realized too that we've actually, it's so new to me to have the flavor text. That the flavor text is very it's very nice because I haven't actually seen the anime, and so the flavor text is giving me like a glimpse into what I'm missing out on, right? The context I'm missing out on. And so it says, oh, a choice of random loot boxes. Well, I'm doing the blessed one, easy. I think that is very funny. You know, it makes me wonder what are the other choices? Because blessed loot box sounds pretty good. So it's actually a really cool way to get me interested in the anime. So I'll have to check it out. I think the second season is coming out, what, January 10th? I think it is. I can double check. I know the date. I have it in an email, but this is actually like a really cool way to get me interested in something that I might have watched the first episode and not been super interested, you know, not really giving it like a fair chance. But the flavor text is very neat. It's just very cool that after like playing this game for 10 years, we didn't have any of it, and now we've got a lot. Next up is Leveling Strength, another XP card. 1/5 with a low block. This time life attuned. Enhance this attack. It's 2 damage. Very simple, very clean. A lot more room for the flavor text. I'm not going to read them all, but you know, this is another quote from the main character. Different beasts have different weaknesses. So if a weapon's not effective, I'll just switch things up. Let's throw hands. That doesn't sound smart to me, but hey, this guy leveled up and I didn't. So if he can if he can pull it off barehanded, more power to him. We've got item menu, another 1 diff, all symbol, back to the attuned all symbol here. Response remove, after you remove this card from your hand, draw 1 card. So if we start seeing more characters with remove from hand cost, this card is going to become a staple for sure, right? Like imagine a pony or a Burt where they wanted to be more extreme and the cost is remove. I mean, this is obviously a character that's going to hope that they're on symbols with this. I think for right now, there's not a whole lot that this is really synergizing with other characters, but it's obviously something Sung Jin Woo wants to have. And I think item menu is pretty cool. I would have expected, like from hearing the name, I would have expected it to be more like the booster pack asset, right? Where you get to look at cards and pick one. But at the same time, just getting, you know, that card back is very cool. Improving skills 2/5, another XP card. Enhance, sacrifice 1 foundation. This attack gets +1 speed. Very solid ability. And then response, after you move this card from your hand, build the top card of your deck face down. So the life symbol giving us some ramp. You do get a blank one and it is committed, but it's still better than not getting anything, right? If we're removing an XP card that does nothing for us, this looks a lot better. So this one is another card where if we see more characters, and the restriction from hand I like that these are really kind of specific, because there is always the opportunity to, you know, design characters that care about removing from hand in the future. but like the enters discard pile was a little too freeform. So I do like that these are pretty restrictive. I do think that a one diff doing the same thing in the stage makes this one kind of hard to be super excited for. But again, if you're playing Sung Jin Woo, you probably start with all the effects that do something after you move them from your hand, and then you see what your deck needs on like a second or third iteration. We have Dungeoneering Armor, 2/5 plus 2 high block. Finally, a death symbol card. And the armor keyword, which I'm pretty I'm pretty interested in this because it seems like we're getting a lot more keyword trades, and armor could be a very flavorful one. We've already seen characters that care about armor in the name, right? Imagine if the Yu Yu Hakusho Dark Tournament set had an armor keyword in retrospect. So this could have been more support for your boy. Not that anyone plays that character, they just use Armor of the Wolf for like a month. Anyways, Dungeoneering Armor. Response Tenacious. After this card is committed due to a rival effect, this attack gets -2 damage. And then Enhanced Tenacious Sacrifice. This attack gets -1 damage. So the potential for -3 overall from one foundation is pretty solid. Having it be reusable every turn could punish some stun decks. I think it's a little difficult to justify when Heroic Endurance isn't already getting played, but who knows? We could see they did just print a character that gives stun 1 to all of their attacks. So if you're highly committed to a damage reduction, game plan on defense, this could make its way into your deck if that character becomes really popular. You got Fateful Decision, another all symbol foundation. Enhance Commit. This attack gets -2 speed. And then we've got Enhance Commit. After you play a block, it gains Breaker 1. So I think this wording works the way it's worded, but that does read like a response. So there might be like a day 0 errata, but either way, even if you enhance and then it's waiting to fire after you play a block, I'm pretty sure that still works. But this card is very cool, getting to pick between helping you block or improving your block if you've already got it handled. If you don't actually need the -2 speed, setting up a breaker is really nice. And I really like the bluffing element with a card like this. You've got 2 different ways to bluff. You've got, even if you're not able to block an attack, or maybe you can force the opponent to spend resources they don't want to. I think this will be a very underrated card. This will be the kind of one diff that if I see this in your deck list, it won't really surprise me, even if it's not like a staple everywhere. But as far as 1/5s that commit for -2 speed goes, I think this one having a better secondary option than almost all of them is probably going to be pretty important. We might have to get to a format where blocking more than once per turn is more likely, but I digress. Double Dungeon, a 3/5 +1 mid block, solid stats, unique and XP. Then it's got Response Tenacious. After you level up, ready this card. So kind of cool, an obvious little payoff for making sure that you do your character's gimmick at the end of each turn. And then enhance your turn, remove level up. You cannot level up again this turn. So this is very spicy. This is, I think, the only way. We'll see later. But this should be the only way to level up mid-turn. And so this is definitely going to be a huge tell. A huge tell for your rival that, I'm trying to end the game right now. I need that new damage boost. I need that echo keyword, wherever it is. I like that this gives you some modular strategy to how you level up, and then you might be able to catch your rival off guard by gaining a new ability when you need it. In a panic situation, if you're only level 1 and you need to get the speed reduction on the next attack, you could do it. Level up on the rival's turn. Pretty interesting stuff. So yeah, I think this is definitely the one where you're trying to save it until you cash it in to level up to level 6 early. But who knows? Once you hit level 6, I mean, you can't even do the Response Tenacious to ready it, right? There's no more leveling. But either way, this one is very nice. Next up, we've got World's Weakest Hunter. We've got, hey, what's up, Linoko? How's it going? We've got the 4-diff World's Weakest Hunter. Got the UR treatment, so you know it's a banger. Weapon XP EX3, 5-speed mid. So it's a 4-diff, 5-speed mid, and it gets even faster, which is kind of wild. But it's got 3 damage, and response after this attack deals damage. You may remove 1 foundation from your stage. Draw 1 card for each card in your removed from game pile. So it's got a lot going on. It's got a condition. It's got like a secondary cost. But a 4-diff that draws 3 cards, that's pretty good. It does take a turn or two to get ramped up, but this is what I was talking about earlier, where I would not be surprised to see more and more remove costs become a thing. I mean, we're already in a world where if you combine this with a lot of the enters discard pile cards, you know, getting 3 or 4 cards removed in one turn is definitely not an issue. So this is also a way for Sung Jin Woo to justify, again, removing all those cards over the course of multiple turns to level up. So I think this is very cool. I think it's just going to take, you know, analyzing how many cards you can reliably remove on turn 2, on turn 3, because put this in any speed pump character, put this in any momentum generation character, and this becomes an incredibly solid poke. This is giving me Tasty Riff vibes, where Tasty Riff was super popular for a hot minute because it was the only way for certain symbols to draw cards. It gave a reliable ramp in the vacuum where Back Alley Haymaker was gone. And so this one I definitely see being a preferred choice, I think, for a lot of decks. But it will still be a little specific probably to characters that remove, because you do, again, you have to deal damage, then you have to lose a foundation, and then you have to have 3 cards removed. So there's a lot of steps that come together, but once they do, 4 difficulty, 5 speed, if you don't, well, I guess you could reduce damage, but most likely they're going to have to block something real fast. Otherwise, you're going to have a brand new hand. I do think it's funny, too, that the card titled Weakest Hunter is the ultra rare, but I guess that's kind of the point of the series, right? Next up, we have a 5 mid 5 Fury Weapon XP card, Wolf Assassin. Got +1 mid block, so solid stats for a 5-div. Blitz, add 1 XP foundation from your discard pile to your hand. All right, so this deck is doing a great job of refunding Sung Jin Woo's cost. So far, we've had multiple ways. We've gotten a replacement foundation for the one that we would have built. We've got now the ability to just pick up an XP foundation that, you know, will either justify cards leaving the hand or just be the one that we remove. Very cool stuff, but it's all, this is just a Sung Jin Woo card, right? So far we don't have any real reason for anyone else to care about the XP keyword, but we might see an XP foundation that justifies playing this in other characters. Killing Intent, another +1 block mod, this time low. 4 low for 5 on the 5-div, so better zone, so we gotta lose a speed. But it comes back to us with stun 1, and Blitz, seal 1 rival foundation with difficulty 2 or less. I think that is a staple effect. I think you're gonna see a lot of decks want this ability. Stun decks for sure want this. I don't know how excited Toga players are that they might have to sideboard this. Maybe this is a sideboard piece, but when I see, you know, the difficulty 2 or less, it is a restriction, but it's really not much of one most of the time. You know, I just see Seal Beauty Pageant Queen. I see, you know, Seal always cool. There's so many decks right now that want to ramp on my turn with a 2-diff. Seal Desperate Pleat. See, you know, all these things that you want to seal on an opener, I think is really solid. If you find any way to increase that stun rating or add more stun to it, you know, I mentioned Toga 3 makes this a 7, low 7, stun 2, right? And she might have to get rid of some stun hate card to really feel like she can do her game plan. Seal learning the standards. I mean, there's so many options. Uh, pretty much every defensive card that is getting utilized in like a remove cost way is a 2 diff or less right now. So I'm pretty big on this one. Um, yeah, again, if we want stun decks to like fight through the stun interaction, sealing is a great way to do it. Now we have Venom Fang Dagger. This is 4 diff, 3 low for 3. Response after this attack deals damage. Your next weapon attack gets plus X damage. X equals this attack's damage. So kind of a high stakes card here. You're definitely going to put your rival in some bad positions where they know they can block this one, but they don't know if they can block the attack after this. And letting even a +3 damage bonus, float onto the next attack could be pretty dangerous. And if you remember, Sung Jin Woo's abilities are he gets the speed pump once per turn, but it's a huge speed pump, and he gets more damage the more attacks he plays, right? So if this is your second attack, there's a very good chance that it's going to pass 3 damage plus 3 more damage from Sung Jin Woo plus 3 speed, right? And all of a sudden you've got your walk the dog, your whatever massive attack you can think of, really. Anything that's starting like overstated is going to be a really big deal here. You could even look at like a Tri-Gravity Beam for other decks, where you're finally going to rip that last card in their hand out, so they can either use it to block here, or they can risk getting Tri-Gravity Beamed and then having that card ripped out, and they're going to eat all that bonus damage. So a very interesting card here to give to the weapon to give to the death symbol, which loves weapons. So both weapon decks and death good stuff decks are gonna want this one, I think. And I think this card's gonna be a little underrated. If you're playing a stat based game plan, I think you can definitely find a place for Venom Fang Dagger in your deck. And I think it combines really well with those middle levels of Sung Jin Woo, where he's maybe not quite full power yet, but he is modifying stats to try to get some incremental advantage. This one is it's a question. I love questions in this game. Grasp for Survival, 4 diff, 1 mid 4. It's got to be a throw. Also has XP. Response after you block with this card, gain 2 health. So solid little throw here. I think any deck that is playing overhead reversal right now is down to play this card instead, because it at least does something else defensively. 0 diffs aren't as powerful as they used to be, and you've got other ways to ramp on life. So this could be a replacement. This could be in addition to any deck that's out there saying, man, I wish there was just one more low difficulty throw. You've got another low difficulty throw. This one's very cool. Response when you block, gain 2 health also has a lot of little partial block math implications I think is cool. Your rival might say, well, this is lethal on a partial, I can send it, and all of a sudden it's not. Very solid stuff. No weapon keyword though, so it might be kind of tough to get Sung Jin Woo's stats onto this, right? You don't get to immediately put the damage on, so that is a little bit of a bummer, but it's it's got grasp in the name and it's got the throw keyword. I can't complain. Now we have enough of this. This is a frenzy attack. So it's a 3 mid for 4 +1 high block, 4 diff. It's got blitz. This card does not count toward progressive difficulty to play foundations. That could have been really dangerous. I have a feeling somewhere that there is a version of this that just didn't count towards progressive difficulty at all, and it might have been like a 3 damage move or something, but it's also got Frenzy in. Frenzy says this attack gets +1 speed and +1 damage for each attack blocked this turn. So Frenzy is a new blitz ability. It's I guess a blitz keyword ability. It's a traditional block punishment to get over those Rodans. When Rodan blocks 3 attacks in front of this, you get to say enough of this, and we get a 6 mid for 7 instead. I think the blitz on this is really cool. I think that there's really specific decks that are going to want this. I'm glad it has the life attuned symbol, because this is those are the symbols where they're like, I do want to play a bunch of 3 diffs. This could be something that Overhaul likes, like a deck that pokes and then wants to build an obscene amount of foundations, utilize those new training methods, flip Wild Wild Pussycats. I think a lot of people are going to find this one unexciting because most decks are designed to attack, 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 and, present persistent pressure, but this is giving you a tool to play in a different way, and I'm pretty excited for it. Frenzy makes it a legit string move a lot of the time too. So it's a good pivot move, it's a good poke, it's a solid player in the middle of a string. It just probably isn't going to finish too well. Well, no, I guess it could finish too if, on turns where your rival starts at low health and they have to block everything. This also becomes a finisher. So +1 high block makes it not feel too bad. I think this card will go underappreciated, is how I'll say, because it does have a lot going on that doesn't necessarily always fit together. So we'll see. Got the Teleportation Stone, 3/5 +2 mid block. Unique response remove. After you block an attack, your rival must play a non-attack card as their next form or pass. So you see Sung Jin Woo's quote there says, should I call it and leave? Which gives me just enough context if I was wondering, is this something that you use to teleport other people? Or it looks like it's like a Hearthstone, it like sends you back home. So response remove, after you block an attack, you basically get to use Learning the Standards or like Airy Smiles. Very cool stuff. Airy Smiles kind of fell off a bit, as the All symbol did too. And like decks are better at pivoting and playing like 1 or 2 just massive attacks over the one foundation that they have to play instead. I mean, Mimic gets to play, was it Dangerous Gambit? And so he can just play an asset and then build it down anyways. Those cards weren't super duper strong, but having it in my stage to use with any block on any block zone sounds like a pretty good upgrade to me. I think this could effectively just replace Airy Smiles, and of course it's a tune, so it can potentially go in decks that didn't have access to that effect before. And again, the biggest thing is it doesn't matter, which zone you're blocking with. Airy can run into issues because if your rival never plays a high attack, it won't feel that good to block with it if you even can. So I think this is a very fair 3-diff asset. Maybe could have seen it be a 2-diff, but that might be pushing it. The effect is very strong. Now we have Clash with the Blood Red. +1 high block, 5-diff, 5 high 5, weapon XP, so another card we can remove the level up. And this Blitz has a lot of words on it, but hang in there with me. Each player reveals the top card of their deck if the check value of your revealed card is greater than or equal to your rival's. Your rival commits 2 foundations. Otherwise, you draw a card and your rival mills one. So they'll mill that card. They won't get to know it's on top of their deck unless they effectively stun 2. So you compare the check values, and then basically if you win, you get stun 2 out of this, and if they win, you get to draw a card. I don't know which one's better, honestly, which outcome is better. It's very nice that they seem pretty even, and I really like the fact that if the rival has a high check value, right, like let's say they reveal 5 and you reveal a 3, you get to draw the 3 and they get to mill the 5, and I think that is absolutely beautiful. I don't know how much people are going to want to play this because everyone is scared to play cards where they can't pick the effect, and I get it. I truly do. But you got to give them some credit that if you lose the reveal, then you should be getting the better effect. And if you win the reveal, you should be getting the better effect. So, I don't know. I think this one has a lot of potential to be something that people really enjoy playing and fitting into their decks. But the competitive scene is always hyper focused on consistently getting what they want, right? And we also see a lot of decks playing 6 checks now. So there is a world where I guess they'll mill the 6 check, which is cool, but like Bill Evans, like cool Godzilla deck would just make me draw a 5 check. So who knows? Who knows? But this one is very cool. I love the design on this one. Now we have Determined Cut. The art for this one's cool. This is one that I hope gets some kind of like foil treatment. It'll probably get like an alternate art if it does, but this one was one I was looking for. It's got the uncommon slot, but I don't know. The giant blade flash seems like it'd be a cool foil. Am I wrong? 4 high for 3, powerful 3, weapon XP. So we're back to weapon attacks. We've got the XP keyword allowing us to level up. And then response after rival plays an enhance ability, they lose 1 health. That's kind of crazy. This can kill the rival. It's for every enhance ability that they play during this attack. Yeah, I mean, obviously for most health totals, going from full to -1 or -2, not the biggest deal in the world, but I think that this one is going to be really annoying. If you ever lose to it, you're just going to be super duper annoyed. It definitely combines well with other burn effects. It combines well with, more copies of itself to continue sort of punishing the opponent or locking them out. Luckily, for most decks right now, people are choosing to just sort of face tank and play powerful responses. So I don't think this one's going to be too dominating, but give me Determined Cut like in 2022. This would have been the gnarliest thing in every attack lineup. So it's interesting to see them branch back out with different ways to drain the rival to do health loss effects. And I actually do kind of enjoy those, and I'm really glad it's not based on blocking or dealing damage, but instead it's worth, it's asking the rival how much how much are you willing to pay for this enhanced step? Are you willing to pay the 1? So we've got the regular Sung Jin Woo, and I think there's 2 more cards we gotta look at through here. Yeah, so there's Hunter's Dagger. So this is a 0 diff asset, +1 low block, so very well statted. It's got the UR treatment. It's got 5 checks, so it's not going to take up too much of your deck building space, which I think is very cool. But it does not have the XP keyword, and it is unique. So even though it's a 0 diff, slamming a whole bunch into your deck might be a little clunky. It depends on how much you need low blocks, I guess. Enhance your non-throw attack gains weapon. If it deals damage, add 3 bleed counters to this card. So I was just about to say we had the grasp earlier, but it says non-throw attack. So, oh well. But then what can we do with 3 bleed counters? Response tenacious, remove 1 bleed counter. After your rival plays an attack, if their health is 3 or greater, they lose 1 health. So this can't kill your rival, but it can whittle them down all the way to 3, which is pretty scary. It's interesting too that this is a way to trigger effects like Excited for Blood on the rival's turn, which is usually the only real drawback of a card like that is, not being able to reliably use it defensively in a pinch has made it feel super, super niche. And not having like the guaranteed burn the way that Toga 1 does also makes it feel pretty niche. But this one's very cool. This one is very interesting. It is flavorful, which I really like. It's adding an effect that is in so many RPGs. I can't think of really any kind of fantasy RPG with a focus on weapons and armor where there isn't some bleed effect somewhere. There's not some debuff somewhere that doesn't make you bleed. So translating it into our game is very cool. And this time it's punishing you for attacking. So if you have this bleed debuff, you're going to find it a little more troublesome to keep pace offensively. And I'm really curious if we'll see more synergies, like more responses, maybe a reprint of Excited for Blood as a promo that will make, the rival losing health on their own turn matter a lot more than it currently does. Because right now I can only think of that one effect. That's the only effect I can think of. And then maybe the knife slice where no, because that can only be done on your turn. Yeah, I can only think of one effect that it really synergizes with, but that crucial extra bit of damage here and there. I mean, every little bit counts, and for a 0 difficulty card, I don't think you can really complain. And now we have Timely Recovery. He's got this cool looking potion in his hand. This one's also an XP card. You can sacrifice it while it's committed, gain 2 health, and then response after you remove this card from your hand, gain 2 health. So I like that this one isn't for a cost. So this also works against Tri-Gravity Beam. If you get to throw off the math for a Tri-Gravity Beam by exactly the 2 health from this card, you will feel like the most godlike player of all time. You will immediately become level 6 in the assassin skill tree. You know, I think that this one's really neat. We've seen way more life gaining effects in the last like 2 to 4 years than maybe the entire time I had played universes before MHA. Like, it is insane to me how many times we keep getting just a gain 1 health, gain 2 health effect, and it does seem like it might be hitting sort of critical mass, but this is kind of in the vein of the Midoriya 5 card, the one where it's like after it enters the discard pile, you gain 2. We don't see that too often. Recovery Girls play it like every now and then. It's still, I think, a contentious include for the average Recovery Girl. So I'm not too worried about this one, but I do think it's neat. It's very flavorful. I don't know how many XP cards you're going to want to put in your Sungjin Woo deck. I imagine it is quite a few. You're not really going to want to end a turn without one, right? Like, I imagine you're going to want to level up at your own, to your own detriment as much as you feel like you can. It'll be so rare where I don't want to spend that one card and I don't plan my whole turn around spending that one card to level up. So either way, that is all the cards I got for you all. I think we showed off, yes, this is the regular assassin skill tree. I guess we've got the foil treatments. I can show you guys the foil treatments that they sent me. Gotta go all the way back through. And then after this, we'll do the tier list. So now you guys have all seen the cards. Which do you think is going to end up in the highest tier? What are the cards that you guys think are going to be S tier cards? Here's the foil Hunter's Dagger. I think it really doesn't show until we get like the physical cards, right? So once you guys see, I like an unboxing video from someone with a much better camera than me. I think these will definitely be sick. You can tell like the point of the dagger is where the shine is the best, and I think that's very cool. I think getting foiling right is like a big deal, even though I'm not like a rare hunter. Here's the alternate World's Weakest Hunter. And then the other one that got the treatment is Double Dungeon. So these are the cards that got the UR treatment. This is how they look foiled. Again, it's probably going to take like an actual unboxing to really get the pop, but you can see like the amount, right? You can tell like there is a lot of shine to these. I think it was set 2. We had like 1 or 2 sets like back with old printers where the foils were like barely noticeable. You couldn't see it from across the table. The last couple sets, last couple products, man, they've been so much better, so much brighter. So let's check out the tier list. I got the tier list maker here. If I can do this correctly, to be that. Nope. Okay. Let me transition there. And then here we go. We got ye old trusty tier list maker here. I've got all the cards down below. We're just going to start pretty much in reverse order. And what I've got for you all here is I got a different methodology, I guess. Everyone does their own tier list their own way, right? So I've got Staple as our highest tier. This is going to be one that you expect to see on symbol regardless of character. This is going to be one that you expect to see with certain packages. And maybe even like a sideboard staple. I'll even throw that in there. Like it's a card, that you'll need for certain matchups, even if it doesn't go in your main board. We've got amazing. This is just an amazing card. This card is above average. That's pretty self-explanatory. It's decent. It would not surprise me to see people playing it, but I might not expect it to be ubiquitous in all decks. Character specific is, realizing like, well, so for one, pretty much all the cards that have XP are like Sung Jin Woo, is gonna want to play them at least, right? So the character specific one is going to be a little agnostic of the XP keyword for this tier list, but it's going to be, I could see a specific character, a specific game plan really loving this one. Really niche characters who want really specific effects might use this card. You might see it at your locals. You might have a character loyalist who is running that character all the time. And then filler is, this helps make the challenger deck work. And it's not a slight, it's not a bad thing necessarily. It's just you need general cards to make a product like this playable and have good games into other, similar products. So filler is not necessarily F tier. It's just funny that it's a word that started with F. So that's my tier list. That's what I'm going with. And first up, we've got timely recovery. I talked about how we had more gain health effects than ever. This one's playable while tenacious, so I think that's pretty cool. But I think the removability isn't very usable after it's removed from your hand. So I'm going to put this one down in filler tier. I think this one kind of makes the deck have really interesting plays. I think it makes the deck have a little bit of, assistance with the damage reduction. It rounds it out, right? It's got speed hate. It's got damage reduction. Now it has health gain as well, so it's a nice little bonus. But I don't think too many people playing Sung Jin Woo competitively are necessarily going to use it either. Next up, we've got. Oh, I have to read it over here. Sorry, I cannot tell. The image got way too small for me. Let me do this. I just want to make sure I'm saying the names of the cards right, because I don't want to disrespect anyone, anyone's license or property. All right, so this one is Serpent Scramble. That's what I thought it was. All right, Serpent Scramble. It's the XP card with Breaker that does nothing in the deck as well. And I think this one, it's not so bad. So I'll put it in character specific. This one's pretty close to filler, I'll admit, but I think that being able to recur this back as Sung Jin Woo and having like easy options, it's kind of like Syndicate Target and number 10 Pro Hero, where building them, they do nothing, but it's an easy option to flip for characters that care about it. So I'll put it in character specific because I think Breaker is really nice to just sort of randomly have. And this is a character that late game can go tutor it back, right? Next up, we have Loot Box. Loot Box, I think, is amazing, mostly in the design department of it feels like a loot box. You are getting like a random little prize. You get to use it in multiple ways. I think this one's very cool. Do I think it's going to dominate a format or make your deck like instantly better? Maybe not, but I think I can put it up in amazing just because of the flavor on it. So I'll take that. Next up, we have Leveling Strength. Leveling Strength is definitely a filler card. I hate to be that guy, but it's just +2 damage. It's XP, but it's just +2 damage, and so we can't just put every character in character specific, every card in character specific, just because Sung Jin Woo can level up with it, right? Next up, we have the item menu. Item menu is a tough one because I was actually really enamored by the +1, sacrifice for +1 speed. But then I remembered that there's one diffs that do that already that aren't really getting played. Monster Aggression is a one diff that also gives damage. So you really have to be utilizing the other effect on it, I think, to make it work too. And I think that's why that actually drops it down from D's to character specific. You know, Jinwoo will probably be down to play this card and utilize the sacrifice effect, but I think other decks are just probably going to find a better sack outlet and a better +1 speed bump. Next up, we have improving skills. Or no, sorry, that's the one. Oh, I just did improving skills. Whoops. I did improving skills thinking of item menus. This is why I had to pull up the list. Sorry. Improving skills. That's the one that's it's +1 speed, sacrifice a foundation, and after you move it from your hand, you build the top card of your deck face down. That one's character specific. Item menu is after you remove this card from your hand, draw a card. That one's also character specific. That one is also, unfortunately, there's just not a lot of characters removing cards from their hand specifically. It's got a very niche use against Tri-Gravity Beam. But for right now, these are both just Sung Jin Woo sort of specific until they give me another character that, or, you know, at least like 2 more characters that people are really playing a lot of where they remove the card straight out of their hand. Then it could probably get bumped up to D's because they are good cards and they are going to make Sung Jin Woo very playable. Next up, we have Fateful Decision. Fateful Decision, I'm going to just immediately put this into D's tier. I think this one's very cool. It's not even an XP card, so I can't give it like the Sung Jin Woo usage, even if I wanted to knock it down. But I think this is going to overperform most of the 1 diff -2 speed cards that you see. I think getting multiples of this out is going to be very nice. You might stun yourself out, but giving your rival -3, -4 to their next check, you know, not to play an attack, to play anything. Opening with these cards, getting multiple of this card out, and a character that can reduce speed. Remember, Sung Jin Woo's got a reduce speed to 0 ability. So this is the card that I think is going to allow Sung Jin Woo specifically to push to the later game if that's really the goal with your deck. And as a 1/5, I can't complain. I dig the modular modes on it. I think it's pretty decent. Next up, we have Dungeoneering Armor. This one's a filler card, unfortunately, with Heroic Endurance not seeing play already. This one being really situational. I think it's just a very interesting design overall, but I don't think it's not wowing me, you know. Next up, we've got Double Dungeon. This is the epitome of character specific. You know, this is a Sung Jin Woo card, and it makes Sung Jin Woo amazing. It's amazing in Sung Jin Woo. Staple in Sung Jin Woo, right? But overall, I mean, until we see other characters that level up, which Critical Role could give us, that is something that happens, you know. I think it's easy speculation to speculate that, but it's not wrong to. So until we get more characters with skill trees, yeah, this one's gonna stick here. Next up, we've got the ultra rare treatment, World's Weakest Warrior. I think this one is. I really want to put this one in staple because I think people are going to figure out how to draw 3 cards from this more often than not, or how to threaten drawing at least 2, right? I think it ends up in amazing, if only because we don't have a ton of characters doing it right off the bat. But I just think of all the Yahtzee style decks that are going to mill something and remove something. They all pump damage and they want something that has reliable speed to add to it. The 5 speed is doing a lot of work here. The EX3 to basically say, okay, well, not only am I going to get a little damage, but I'm really going to draw these cards. I think this card is going to be figured out. I think there's going to be more support for it, but for right now, I have to put it in amazing because it doesn't have that extra support. It doesn't have a different character to really reliably remove cards from hand, I guess, but this can be removed from anywhere. So you combine this with the 0 diff floating around my babies, and we're already at, draw 3 cards. So I think it's not going to be that difficult to actually activate this at all and make it threaten to draw 3 cards. So I really want to put this in staple and be like, I told you so, when this is the new 4 diff that that opens like every turn 2 and threatens to put you so far ahead. But I'm gonna leave it in amazing for now. Then we've got Wolf Assassin. Wolf Assassin is add 1 XP foundation from your discard pile to your hand. This is kind of filler actually. I don't think this is actually going to make it into Sung Jin Woo decks once they get iterated on. It depends on how many cards down here end up in as XP cards that you need, but yeah, it's not super exciting. It's not wowing me, and it's making you run XP cards that have no use yet outside of Sung Jin Woo. Next we have Venom Fang Dagger. This is one that if it deals damage, your next weapon attack is gonna get bonus damage equal to this attack's damage. And I think that this is very decent, almost amazing. I want to put it up in amazing, but I'll leave it in Dece because Dece is a little. I might put more cards worse than this in Dece and bump it up. But I think this is going to be a solid role player for a lot of decks. I think it's going to open up different play avenues and cause your opponent to make mistakes, basically. This is going to put the onus on them to identify threats correctly and deal with them. And so it's got to be Dece. Next up, we got Killing Intent. This is the stun one, and then seal 1 rival foundation with difficulty 2 or less. This makes most of your opponent's best defensive cards useless. This is a staple. This is the vast hybrid Chimera Kraken for decks that can't run it. This is how death decks can get over stun hate. This is so many times where your rival is relying on one defensive piece, especially early. You know, this is how you stop Berthold 2 from ramping on your turn, you know? You can now effectively poke because your first ability, your blitz, is to seal Always Cool or seal Weapon Clash. So I think this one's going to end up as a staple. It might not be a staple 4 of because you might not need to see, you might not get as much value out of sealing as you do for, let's say, you know, commit and freeze. But I do think people are going to really find that their win percentage goes up. The same way that I used to feel about Vast Hybrid, where every deck I put it in, the deck just gets better. Killing Intent, I think you'll find a similar gameplay pattern. So 4 low for 5, stun 1, and you get to seal something. You know, it's just the only thing that will end up holding it back is if it doesn't end up having the right keyword for a character or something like that. But Fury and Weapon are the 2 most common death keywords, so I think it'll be all right. Next up, we've got Grasp for Survival. This is another Dece card. It's a little niche, but I don't think it's quite character specific. You know, I think it is going to be something where I've seen more than one deck play Overhead Reversal, decks that want a cheap poke, a cheap throw, cheap momentum, and it does something when you draw it on defense, and that's something not a lot of throws have. Most throws are statted so that they can't even be blocked with, and this one is kind of encouraging you to block with it. So I think this one will be very solid in the upcoming metagames. Next up is Enough of This. I think Enough of This is actually amazing. I think Enough of This will be amazing in a few select decks, but they will be really good decks because they will be the decks where people have a vision of a stage that they want, and they'll have lots of tools for ramping and getting to that stage. This could be like the Ymir turn 2. I play this one card, I lose 1 or 2 health just to kind of get me, you know, in a zone to benefit from gaining health. And then I get my full build after that where I have new training method to pick extra stuff up. I wild pussycats to go find more foundations. Everyone's fighting over uplifting bond versus recuperation time versus carbo loading versus all the other good 3 diffs on life. And there's probably a 4 diff by now, right? So I think this one's actually going to be really solid in decks like that. Getting the full utilization of all that foundation grabbing. It might get hit by rotation, I guess. It might be when some of those cards rotate. it might fall off. But for right now, for the next month, amazing is where I'm putting this card. Because it also has a scaling block punishment effect for a 4 diff that makes it swing, pretty potently no matter where you put it. So I think amazing is fair. Uh, this one is determined cut. 4 diff, 4 high for 3, powerful 3 damage. I'm gonna say this one is D's. It has a lot of potential to become amazing, and it definitely has the potential to be really frustrating. I'm gonna feel really bad if I ever lose to this card because I live at 1, and then my opponent plays a determined cut, and I'm forced to enhance. But I think it would need a little more synergy, making the life loss during the enhanced step feel like it matters more. Um, Not exactly sure how to do that, but you know, I think Determined Cut is a solid card, and there are going to be decks that want to just sort of poke and get very small advantages from you interacting with them. But I think the reality is it'll just be the most aggressive decks that are going to force you to fight over different enhances. And it would be cool to see maybe like a character who has like the Armor of the Wolf wording where it says every time your opponent passes, maybe they get damage anyways. Maybe they get 1 speed or something, so you have to pick between taking more damage and blocking this or letting it get too fast and then you can't. I don't know. There's a lot of opportunity for this, and I think it is actually just really annoying that some decks are going to have to lose 1 health every time they play an enhance. Next up, we have Clash with the Blood Red. This is definitely amazing. I want to say it's a staple, but I don't think people are going to believe in it enough. I don't know if I'm going to believe in it enough. I don't like random effects myself, especially when I'm going into a competitive environment. But just like with the flavor of the loot box, I think the flavor could put this up here. I think this will be a fun card to play. I think it will be a weird amount of like knowledge. Like I think that the skill in using this card might be troublesome, even for someone like me. Like again, I don't really want a random effect either, but at the same time, a 5 high for 5 stun 2, really, really good. And this is blitz speed, right? So this is even before you get to do enhances. And then at the same time, again, we talked about how 90% of the time, if you lose this mini game, you're going to be drawing an attack. You're going to be drawing a forward check at worst, So drawing like a referee jury style action is, or a runaway. Not a bad trade-off either. So I think this one is going to be maybe underrated. And so it ends up like looking like a D's card, but I'm ready to see this card go off. Next up, we have the Teleportation Stone. This is also a staple. This one is also going to be something that I'm going to be amazed. Like I'm going to be amazed if your deck has access to the all symbol and you're not able to block at least 1 attack. I think this is so much better than learning the standards right now. I played against quite a few learning the standards as Godzilla, and it was kind of laughable to see people reduce my 12 or 9 damage move down to 6, take a full 6, and then force me to play another foundation while I have +2 to my check to play an attack. I think Teleportation Stone does a better job now. And you might be saying, well, Sam, people aren't playing Keiko's Aid that much, but that's true. And Keiko's Aid is a foundation with a flip cost, not a remove cost. But Keiko's Aid does something fundamentally different, right? Keiko's Aid doesn't say you can't play an attack. It just says you have to pay more for it. And in this world where decks are getting check bonuses, I think that forcing them to have the full progressive is better than Keiko's Aid. Again, combining it with any block zone, better than Breaker, or better than Airy Smiles. You can combine this with Breaker. So I don't know. I think Teleportation Stone, as a unique one-of index, I think that counts as a staple, and I think that it's going to be a one-of in almost every deck on the symbol. Now we've got the Hunter's Dagger, the 0 diff that gets bleed counters. Bleed counters are really weird. I don't even think this one's really character specific, but it's definitely not filler. So I don't actually know where to put this one. I guess I have to put it under D's because it's hard for me to conceptualize which decks really want this. The fact that it lets Sung Jin Woo give anything weapon feels like it should make it character specific, but I don't even know if that's true. It doesn't have the right timing to like make Toga more versatile, but it does make Sung Jin Woo more versatile. But I also think that, just having a zero diff that theoretically says if I deal damage, I can deal three more damage. Because your rival is probably going to play three more attacks throughout the game. So I don't know. I think that this one might be a little too cumbersome to keep track of, and people might not really enjoy playing it. But I think I can put this in D tier. I think you'll see, especially if any synergy for losing health, for making the rival lose health, akin to an excited for blood, does come around, right? Like Toga might play this. There could be Toga one decks for the small amount of time that they'll be legal, who just say, I'm going to deal damage to you, and now I'm going to get to do my discard and draw and gain one health whenever you play an attack against me. I think that that's pretty solid. I think that's pretty decent. So I could definitely see that deck playing at least one copy of this, but who knows? I guess I could have put the assassin skill tree on here, but I'm gonna loop the assassin skill tree in with Sung Jin Woo. And I'm gonna say Sung Jin Woo is amazing tier. I think they did a really good job. A Vax card. Yeah, okay. we got the chat saying it's a Vaxeldin card, so I could see that. But I'll put Sung Jin Woo into amazing tier. I think they did a really good job with the leveling up process, getting better and better. Well, one thing I was afraid of was that there was going to be like a clear downgrade where people say, oh, well, I don't know if I want to level from like, say, 3 to 4, because maybe 4 and 5 weren't as good as level 3 was to people. But I think they definitely did a good job of having it scale bigger and bigger, having it increase as you go. The fact that you get to level up at the end of turn 1, right, because he is tenacious when you go first, I think is really smart. So the design overall, pretty amazing. But then when you factor in that the assassin skill tree has some of the best character effects we've ever seen, and that they seem appropriately time gated, I think he's going to be able to play, important game plans competitively. I think he's going to be able to play, meta strategies very well. I think definitely once you get to that level 3, I think he really turns on. I think he really has, my attacks get increasingly more powerful. And then when I get the kill card, when I put you in the position I want to put you in, I've got +3 speed to make it hammer home. And then once we get beyond that point in the game, I'm going to be adding Echo, so the stakes are getting higher and higher. I don't see you getting to the level 6-2 too often, if only because he himself is so strong before level 6. But that level 6 ability does seem like a lot of fun. So I think this is a really good tier list. I think this turned out really well. These 3 down here, these are just the other arts. This is just Hunter's Dagger. These are the non-foil art. So it's the same cards. But I think this worked out really well. There's a couple staple cards. There's a few amazing cards that if your deck cares, about them, they will love this card. The D's cards make up the biggest portion of the cards. And then character specific makes sense because it's all for one character's deck, right? We're putting all the support here, and these are things that I think Sung Jin Woo, right? Like, again, these cards become amazing staples in him, so that makes sense. And then a couple filler cards here and there is nothing to really write home about. And maybe these cards are more important to Sung Jin Woo's game plan than I realize. Maybe you guys at home can tell me what you think of this tier list. Is there any cards I really missed the mark on? Is there anything that you think I should have put in a higher tier? Let me know. I'm going to upload this to YouTube. You can put a comment on YouTube if you would like. But this is my tier list for the Sung Jin Woo Challenger deck. I want to thank Universes Games again for sending me these reveals to do for you guys, and I hope you guys had a lot of fun.